Dahil sa pandemyang dulot ng COVID-19, nahaharap tayo sa matinding hamon sa edukasyon. Ngunit hindi ito hadlang para tayo ay tumigil sa pagkakatuto. Kaya naman, tayo ay gumagawa ng paraan gamit ang makabagong teknolohiya sa pagharap natin sa new normal. Tayo ay magkakaroon ng bagong classrooms at virtual class sa Sipnayan. Makakatulong ang video na ito upang lalo natin matutunan ang lessons dahil maaari natin ulit-ulitin ang discussion. Ako po si Sir Louie. Tara, aral tayo.
Solving quadratic equations by quadratic formula. So before we proceed to our lesson, quadratic formula, let's have a review regarding finding the roots of quadratic equation using factoring method. We have x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. So let's get the factor of this trinomial to find the roots. So we have the factor of x on both factor because we have x squared, and then since the constant term has a negative sign, the operations are different. One is plus, one is minus because the constant term is negative. And then we put the larger value of the factor of 5 to the negative because the linear term is negative. So we have 5 times 1 as a factor of 5. So if we add negative 5 and 1, we have negative 4 on the linear term. Let's equate each factor to 0. X plus 1 is equal to 0, and the other one is x minus 5 is equal to 0. Transpose 1 to the right side, we have x is equal to negative 1. And then the other one, x is equal to positive 5. So these are the roots of quadratic equation using factoring method. Find the roots of quadratic equation using completing the square. So we have x squared minus 6x minus 3. So we will use completing the square in this quadratic equation. So we have to transpose negative 3 to the other side. We transpose constant term to the other side. So x squared minus 6x plus blank is equal to 3 plus blank. Then we proceed to completing the square. So we get the numerical coefficient of the linear term, which is negative 6, then divided by 2, that will be equal to negative 3. That's the quotient. Then square the quotient. Negative 3 squared is equal to 9. So we add 9, we add 9. Notice that this is a perfect square trinomial. We transform this into square of binomial, and that is x minus 3 squared is equal to 12. Now, using extracting square roots, square root both sides, and then square root will cancel the squared. Then we have x minus 3 is equal to, since 12 is not a perfect square, we write positive negative square root of 12. We have two equations here. One is x minus 3 is equal to positive square root of 12, and the other one is x minus 3 is equal to negative square root of 12. We transpose negative 3 to the other side. X is equal to 3 plus square root of 12, and x is equal to 3 minus square root of 12. Let's try to simplify square root of 12. We have square root of 12 is equal, think of a factor of 12 that has a perfect square, and that would be 4 times 3. So square root of 12 is also equivalent to 2 square root of 3. So we have here x is equal to 3 plus 2 square root of 3. That is the simplified form of square root of 12. X is equal to 3 minus 2 square root of 3. So do you think we can add 3 and 2 here? And we can subtract 3 and 2 here? No. So the final answer is x is equal to 3 plus 2 square root of 3, and x is equal to 3 minus 2 square root of 3. So that is the roots of the quadratic equation using completing the square. Now let's write each quadratic equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, and then let's identify the values of a, b, and c. So in the first equation, we have to write it in ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So we arrange it. We have 2x squared plus 9x minus 10 is equal to 0. So what are the values of a, b, and c? So a here is 2, b here is 9, and c here is negative 10. Do not forget the operation used for the constant term. That would be your sign in letter C. We have 10 plus 7x minus 3x squared is equal to 0. We arrange this in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Then we have negative 3x squared plus 7x plus 10 is equal to 0. A now would become negative 3, b now would become 7, and c would become 10. We have 2x times the quantity x minus 6 is equal to 5. So we multiply 2x and x. That would be 2x squared. And then we multiply 2x times negative 6. That would give us negative 12x. That would be equal to 5. So we simplify first before we arrange. So let's arrange in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. That would be 2x squared minus 12x minus 5 is equal to 0. Let's get the values of a, b, and c. We have a is equal to 2, b is equal to negative 12, and c is equal to negative 5. Next, we have quantity 3x plus 7 multiplied by the quantity x minus 1 is equal to 0. We use FOIL method here. First, outer, inner, last. 3x times x, that will give us 3x squared, negative 3x, then inner, 7 times x, that will give us positive 7x, and then 7 times negative 1 is negative 7 is equal to 0. Combining like terms, we have negative 3x plus 7x. Again, may utang kang 3, may pera kang 7, meron kang 4 na pera. So, we have 3x squared plus 4x minus 7 is equal to 0. Now, this is now arranged in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. And then we identify the values of a, b, and c. That would be a is equal to 3, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to negative 7. And the last, we have x squared plus 12x plus 4x plus 48 is equal to 0. So combining like terms, we have x squared plus 16x plus 48 is equal to 0. Now, this is now arranged in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So, we have a is equal to 1, b is equal to 16, and c is equal to 48. Now, we are ready to use quadratic formula to find the roots of quadratic equation. So, this is the quadratic formula. We have x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A while ago, we find the roots of quadratic equation using factoring method. Let's apply quadratic formula in this quadratic equation. So we have x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. So notice that this is arranged in ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now we identify the values of a, b, and c. The value of a is 1, the value of b is negative 4, and the value of c is negative 5. So we apply the quadratic formula of x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All we have to do is to plug in or substitute the value of the letters. We have x is equal to negative 4 because b is negative 4 and the formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 4 and then squared, minus 4 times 1 times negative 5 all over 2 times 1. Then we evaluate this. X is equal to negative 4, that would be positive. Negative times negative is a positive. Plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared is 16. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. Then we have negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20. So 16 plus 20 all over 2 times 1 is 2. And then inside we evaluate 16 plus 20. So we have x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 36 all over 2. Remember that square root of 36 is equal to 6. So we have 4 plus or minus square root of 36 is 6 all over 2. So we have two equations here. First root is x is equal to 4 plus 6 all over 2. And the other equation is x is equal to 4 minus 6 all over 2. Then we have x is equal to 10 all over 2 or 10 divided by 2. That will give us 5. And then x is equal to negative 2. 4 minus 6 is negative 2 all over 2 or that will give us negative 1. So our first root is x is equal to 5. So our second root is x is equal to negative 1. These are the roots of quadratic equation using quadratic formula. Now you can notice that it is the same as the first method that we used, the factoring method. It is arranged in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now let's have the values of a, which is 1, b is equal to negative 6, and c is equal to negative 3. Now we apply the quadratic formula. We use x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's plug in the values or let's substitute the value. We have x is equal to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 6 squared, minus 4 times 1 times negative 3 all over 2 times 1. We evaluate this. We have x is equal to positive 6. Negative times a negative is a positive, so positive 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared is 36. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. So this is plus 12 all over 2. So we evaluate what's inside the radical sign. We have x is equal to 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 plus 12 is 48 all over 2. Now let's get the factor of 48 that has a perfect square. So we have 6 plus or minus the square root of 16 times 3 all over 2. Notice that 16 is a perfect square. So we can have square root of 16 is equal to 4. X is equal to 6 plus or minus the square root of 16 is 4 square root of 3. Since 3 is not a perfect square, it's still inside the radical sign all over 2. As you can see, we have two equations here. One is x is equal to 6 plus 4 square root of 3 all over 2, and the other one is x is equal to 6 minus 4 square root of 3 all over 2. Then let's solve. X is equal to, this is 6 divided by 2 is 3 plus 4 divided by 2 is 2 square root of 3. And then on the other side, x is equal to 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2 square root of 3. These are the roots of quadratic equation using quadratic formula. As you can see, the answers are the same as completing the square method. Now let's try to find the roots of quadratic equation using quadratic formula. Let's have 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 is equal to 0. So again, it is arranged in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Then identify the value of a, which is 4, the value of b, which is negative 12, and the value of c, which is positive 9. Then we use the formula of negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative 12 plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared minus 4 times 4 times 9 all over 2 times 4. Evaluate this. We have x is equal to positive 12 plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared is 144 minus 4 times 4 is 16 times 9 is 144 all over 8. So 144 minus 144 will become 0. So we have x is equal to 12 plus or minus the square root of 0 is 0 all over 8. So we have 12 plus 0 is 12 over 8. And then 12 minus 0 is 12 over 8. So get the factor of 12, which is 4 times 3, and the factor of 8, which is 4 times 2. Cancel the common factors. We have 3 over 2. So our x is equal to 3 over 2. This is your final answer. At the end of this video, I will leave the quadratic formula song. Thank you and see you again next time.
Negative b plus or minus square root b squared